It's good, y'all. It's a continuation of the other video because I had to clean up some space on this phone. So the other video just ended abruptly. But I was speaking on the aspects of the Matrix and how what each individual person in the Matrix means to me. Like as far as Neo, Morpheus, and Trinity goes. Um, I feel like to me, I'm just going to give y'all my breakdown, my example. To me, Neo represents free will. Similar to, like, for me, I would really label Neo as somewhat like a Green Lantern. Like, the more will he had, the stronger he became to the point where he was able to do things that other people that was in the Matrix couldn't do simply because he was the one. But it also had to do with his willpower and the things that he chose to do with his free will. Morpheus, I feel like in his aspect, it had to do with, um, I would say Morpheus would remind me of something like Charles Xavier and basically the mastering of the mind and how, like, oftentimes in this world, what I've noticed at least, especially being that I'm a trailblazer, I'm intelligent, but I'm intelligent enough to know that I'm not the type of person that just follows what everybody else thinks and does. Even if it's something that's come from my elders, like I've always found myself like my daughter, anytime she hears anything, anytime I teach her something new, the first thing she always says is why? Why, daddy? Why this? Why that? And whenever she does that, it reminds me of myself. But I feel like that's the same aspect with Morpheus. Like Bob Marley said it the best. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery, for no one but ourselves can free our mind. And even with that saying, you hear of the next revolution won't be televised. It's because the revolution happens in here. So I would say that Neo is a representation of free will and the power of willpower itself once you learn how to use willpower in general. And then Morpheus is the power of the mind, emancipating yourself from mental slavery to where no one else is the primary benefactor of your mind but you. You control your mind, you control what you think, what you believe, the world you see, everything like that. And just recently, like, I was a little bit stumped on Trinity, and like, I just felt like, even though I knew that Trinity represented an aspect of love regarding like her and Neo specifically, but more than that, doing the pondering that I've done, I feel like Trinity represents to me the body, but not just the body. Like, because when you get closer to God, you realize that He speaks of a lot of fighting with the flesh. So, in my opinion, I feel like Trinity represents the body, but it's also a mastering of the body. But even more than that, in its simplest form, I see it as the mastering of the ego. And the ego is something that pulls us from place to place, And for a long time, the ego has been something that I've been trying to kill. And because of this, it's like when you try to kill the ego, I don't feel like the ego is something that can be killed because we live in this body. Like, I feel like we are our spirit, but I feel like our body has a mind of its own as well. Like, our body is its own entity, like a vehicle, like a make, a model. You know what I'm saying? It has a year that it came out and everything. And so, to me, those are the three aspects of mind, body, and soul. The mind is Morpheus, the soul is Neo, and the body is Trinity. None of them can work with full effectiveness if either one is not operating in the way that it's supposed to. It's like the neck, the head, and the eyes. The neck being the foundation, the head being like direction, and the eyes being vision. And so, like I wrote in this piece I wrote, my the great cataclysm. I wrote in here that a life filled with too much light will ultimately have you unprepared for when the darkness arrives. And a life overshadowed by darkness will inadvertently squander your potential to see the light as something transformative. Excuse me. As something signaling to you that ease is around the corner or even at your doorstep. And then after that, I wrote, I won't sit here and pretend to know all the secrets of life. But so far in my understanding, I've learned that too much darkness and too much light tends to have the same effect. And the effect is that they both result in blindness. And with that being said, you know, I don't judge anybody in the way that they choose to live their life. But I want y'all to know that I'm not a man that conforms or subscribes to any form of religiosity simply because I feel like once you subscribe to one thing, you cap your ceiling off to knowledge. In the Bible itself, God says, seek wisdom, not gold. And I feel like that's the perfect way to say it. Like, I don't I don't want to limit myself for all the things that I can do. You feel me? And I was recently talking about this with a friend of mine, and we were talking about how in the Bible, like, it's the whole controversy talk about how the Bible is fake, but then there's also the talk of how they purposely left things out of the Bible, which both are true. Like, there could be more than one truth at the same time. But the biggest thing we was talking about was how in the Bible, I don't remember exactly what chapter, but in that range of like John, Luke, and Matthew, somewhere in there, I think John is where it talked about Jesus being born. It talks about how he was born, and then me and my friend, we was talking about this the other day. Like, it talks about how he was born, but then it cuts out everything of his adolescence, his teenage years, his young adult years, and it jumps straight to when he was 33, when he was a grown man. And I say that to say, because where I said I've learned that too much darkness and too much light tends to have the same effect. They both result in blindness, right? I feel like at this age I am, 26, I feel like humans are the most advanced piece of technology on this planet simply because of our ability to learn, evolve, and master, and then pass it on to the next generation of our kids. I feel like what we learn even before we have kids, like I feel like our untapped potential goes to our kids anyway. But I feel like the more we learn, the more we take the steps towards evolution, once we choose to have another kid, it's almost as if like they get a head start. You feel me? And so I say that to say, like with the whole too much light and too much darkness, I feel like there's a need for us to have an understanding of both, right? And even like in the Bible, like even though they skipped out like all of Jesus's adolescent learnings, he came back doing things that people considered to be dark, but were they really dark? Because that's another thing. I feel like good and evil is a subjective opinion that people have. I feel like in most cases, people call things evil simply because they have no knowledge of it. And not only that, but I feel like humans are very, very tender when it comes to feeling like there is something superior to them that is like them. You feel me? And so I was talking to my mans the other day, and we was just talking about like how I specifically brought this up, but when there came a point where Jesus left all the people, all his siblings, his parents, and he went to go learn certain things. And when he came back, he was walking on water, turning water into wine, healing people off a touch, people getting healed because they touched him. And so basically, like, I feel like I said that good and evil is subjective, but I feel like even the terms of good and evil in themselves is subjective. Like, who's to say what is good? Like, who are we to say what is good and who are we to say what is evil? I feel like the only thing good and evil is the heart that whoever we are as humans and the minds that we have as humans and the things we choose to do as humans. I feel like those things are subjected to being good and evil. I don't feel like anything can be inherently good or bad. I feel like there's only good or bad people that uses said things. You feel me? And so with that being said, like in this piece I wrote that I wonder what it would be like to live in a world filled with beings that are uncategorizable, beings that cannot be labeled good or bad, but humans that are just being, whatever the moment calls for. And so I say that to say like there's gonna be so many things in this life that we just don't understand. So many things that we will so many things in this life that will make it to our deathbed before understanding. Not all of us, but most of us, most of y'all, I'm gonna try to learn as much as I can. But I wanna speak on the fear of darkness or what other people perceive to be as darkness, you know? Because I feel like in society, period, being a mediocre human is just what's normal. Like, and not that I feel like people want to be mediocre, but I feel like there's leaders and followers, and that unless you're like a leader, unless you're a person that questions the narrative, unless you're a trailblazer, you automatically get roped in to the programming in the way of which a follower thinks. Like it's sheep's in his wolves, you know? And I feel like until we are willing to push the envelope and discover all that we are as humans, not just going out and partying and doing drugs and drinking alcohol and trying to test whatever drugs we can test. Like, I feel like it's more to life than just that, you know? And so that's why I wrote this piece. the Great Cataclysm, and I got the title name from the anime Fire Force. That was the first thing that came in my mind, and yeah, I also wrote in this same piece, and I'm only reading it. I was going to end the video, but I'm reading it because it's sticking out to me. So I feel like I need to touch base on it. But I wrote Sami. I wrote. I came to terms that in life there is a time and place for everything. Simultaneously, we have to accept that every single one of us has been made perfectly imperfect. And even in that saying alone, duality has been given a life. We must learn to no longer be fearful of the blinding light within us, nor shall we be fearful of the overpowering shadow that is cast behind it. And so, if you ever see the movie Coach Carter, like the guy, he I forget what his name, but he's like half black, half Spanish, and he recited the Maya Angelou poem. I've never heard it myself, but I've heard him say it enough times to where like I could remember the beginning of it. But he basically said that it is not it is not our darkness that we're most afraid of. It is our light. And basically our light being as far as the potential that we see in ourselves. And what you'll notice, I don't know, if you've seen this video, maybe you're an extraordinary human. But what I notice in my life is duality is such a motherfucker. Excuse my language, but it's such a motherfucker, like how it works in tandem with each other, like the light and the dark. The more I explore my own darkness and the more I explore my own darkness and the more I explore my own light, they both reveal something about the opposite side to me, if that makes sense, if you catch my drift. And so it's kind of like in the other video I recorded before it cut off, I said that I resonated with Dracula's son, Alucard, the half vampire, half human. I resonate with that because it's like I've the way my family is set up on both sides, my mom and my dad's side, like it's like one side, like they both lean towards God. Everybody believes in God, but it's like both sides have their own darkness that came with it. But they also both have their pieces of the pie to where either the lightness of the pie was bigger or the darkness of the pie was bigger. And so in my life, it's like I've grown up to be like Dracula's son, like half vampire, half human. And I say that to say in reference of half light, half dark. And so I'm just learning that because of that, I'm not like most people. I don't lean more so towards either side. I feel like I can draw information and draw I feel like I could draw information and draw what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? I don't really know what word I'm looking for. But the only word coming in my head is power. Like, and I know that's gonna sound certain ways to some people, but I know my heart, so I know what I do with my own power as far as drawing things that I've gotten from the good and from the bad. Because even just like I wrote in my writing, like I wrote that too much light will leave you unprepared for the darkness when it arrives, and too much darkness teaches you how to not navigate being in the light and with the light like shines upon. You feel what I'm saying? And so it's kind of like I can't really say I'm either or because, like I also said in my writing, it's like I just feel like I'm more of a being that can draw out whatever side of myself I need for whatever the moment calls for. But that's that in itself is really hard to explain in a way that I can preach to other people to do so as well because I know that a lot of people are not like me. Whether you got good people or whether you got bad people, they both fighting for the they both fight for different teams, but if you notice, they both tend to have the same tactics, even though they fight for opposing sides. They fight in the same way. You feel me? So it's like it doesn't really matter which side they're on because they're really just the same people. One just chooses to live predominantly one way and one chooses to live predominantly the other. But in all reality, in some way, shape, or form, they're both lost. But I feel like being lost like that comes from neglecting either side as well. It's like, I don't know, maybe I just got a philosopher's mind, but while the evil feel like their side is the best side, and while the good feel like their side is the best side, I feel like they both leave knowledge and understanding on the table when they choose to not come together and do this. You feel me? And I feel like that's the whole point of God having duality, period. Because this the thing, right? With any lesson, any woman you deal with, any man you deal with, bad or good, and things go a certain way that's not desirable in a certain way, like you could be it's two different people in this world. Like you could either be the person who chooses to become resentful and hateful because of whatever side did what to you, or you could choose to learn from it. I'm the type of person, I'm not perfect, so like I have been resentful before, but deep down to my core, I've always just chosen to learn from the lesson itself and what I could take from it for myself so that I could protect myself or elevate myself. You feel me? And controversial as it may be, there's something to learn from evil people and there's something to learn from good people. Otherwise, you struggle on either side. You get me? Like, I'm a God fearing man, don't get me wrong, and I know there's that saying of don't be the one that lives on the fence, but at the same time, like I that saying alone about like not living on the fence and choosing either the devil or God, I wouldn't say that I live on the fence, but I would say that the saying in itself doesn't make sense to me, and not in a way that I just don't subscribe to it, but I ponder upon things like this, right? And It's like good angels and bad angels, you know. Just like what I was saying earlier, they both on different sides, but they fighting for the same thing, which is territorial dominion, you know. But the saying of living on the fence doesn't make sense to me because God isn't like God is good. God is great all the time. God is good. Wait, how I go? All the time. God is good. God is good all the time. Probably said that backwards. But God has a dark side too. Angels have a dark side too. And I would say even more so, like, I feel like that's why they are angels because they have that duality of both of love and light and destruction. You feel me? As to where like something evil is more directed to just straight darkness. But everybody got their own story. But the saying of like the whole fence, like walking on the fence, saying I feel like the saying in itself is more of a distraction than it is the truth. Because the same way an angel fights for good, an angel will wreak havoc if it needs to. An angel will wreak havoc if God tells it to. You get what I'm saying? And so, me personally, I feel like there's power in knowing which, where to draw from sometimes, you know? Because I'm from the hood, I'm from the trenches, like, so growing up being this angel, growing up having the heart of an angel, it's a good thing to have. It's morally a good way to live. But being an angel of light, you'll find that you often get attacked by angels of darkness. And so, what I learned was that just being an angel of light, going up against an angel of darkness, it's like one is peace and one is violence. And I feel like if you never know violence as a being that's peaceful, you can never have peace. You feel me? I'm not on the other side of the spectrum. Like, we could just use Star Wars as a reference. I'm not a Sith, I'm a Jedi. So I can't really speak from the other standpoint and why having light as a Sith is good for you, but I can speak on why having darkness as an angel of light is good for you. Because being an angel of light, like we represent all good things, but it's like if you never know any darkness, if you never cultivate your own darkness or cultivate any darkness of your own, and those is two different terminologies in the way I just worded that, you'll never be able to effectively be a true angel. You feel what I'm saying? Like, what good is an angel that fights for good if it never fights? So yeah, that was really just me touching on this piece I wrote. And so yeah, but I know I did a lot of yapping, but I'm gonna read the piece one more time before I cut this video off, simply so that everything ties in together. So I hope you got something from what I just said. But the piece is called The Great Cataclysm. A good life cannot be considered good without structure. And structure is something that cannot be attained with. And structure is something that cannot be attained without balance. I'm learning that in this life it is rather unethical to live without an understanding of balance. Excuse me. A life filled with too much light will ultimately have you unprepared for when the darkness arrives. And a life overshadowed by darkness will inadvertently squander your potential to see the light as something transformative, as something signaling to you that ease is around the corner, or even at your doorstep. I won't sit here and pretend to know all the secrets of life, but so far in my understanding, I've learned that too much darkness and too much light tends to have the same effect. They both result in blindness. While coming to this conclusion, I came to terms that in life there is a time and place for everything. Simultaneously, we have to accept that every single one of us has been made perfectly imperfect. And even in that saying itself, duality has been given a life of its own. We must learn to no longer be fearful of the blinding light within us, nor should we be fearful of the overpowering shadow that is cast behind it. Oftentimes, I can't help but wonder what we could be if we chose to not only embrace our good, but our bad as well, and vice versa. To be whole in the most polarizing way possible. I wonder what it would be like to live in a world filled with beings that are uncategorizable, beings that cannot be labeled good or bad, but humans that are just being whatever the moment calls for. The great cataclysm. The great cataclysm. Yeah, that's all I got for y'all today. I love y'all. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And you know how they say the fountain of youth over here is the fountain of enlightenment. I guess that's the fountain of youth too. But a fountain of knowledge, a fountain of evolution, education, and just a new way of living. A way of living that's not a way of living that's not trendy. A way of living that makes you step outside the box and look at things from your own perspective. Come up with your own understanding. Actually, I lied. God said, lean not on your own understanding. So I won't say that. But take the time to think about what you believe in, how you see things. But I'm only gonna say to do that if you're a person that's able to look at both sides of the coin. And yeah, with that being said, it's M's Limitless, you know, another TED Talk. And I love y'all, my beautiful people. Make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe for more content. I'm gonna make more content anyway, so just like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, I'm out. I love y'all. Peace.